100%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them.
There it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Save big on everything when you shop at Menards. It's a great time to upgrade your lighting. We have the largest selection of stock Sylvania True Wave light bulbs. They're designed to help you feel and see better. Receive $5 instant savings on a qualifying purchase of $20 or more on True Wave LED bulbs. Now through March 15th. View our selection of lighting products on Menards.com. Plus, check out our weekly flyer to find great deals happening this week.
Save big money.
Caleb, I don't know if you can, probably not. Caleb, I think you can hear me. Caleb, I think we got this fixed. We're going to be back here in about 1 minute. Hopefully you guys can hear coming through. Sorry about that.
Stations.com and upgrade your new bath today.
Progressive knows life takes you in many directions.
Bear right at exit 32, then begin to wonder why you never bought a fish tank. In 1.3 miles, you'll realize you've been mispronouncing epitome your whole life. At the roundabout, you will remember you said something at dinner you wish you hadn't and will think about it for decades. You have arrived at your destination, but it turns out there really is no destination and life just keeps going.
Wherever life takes you, protect your home and auto with a bundle from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like a cybersecurity engineer at a publicly traded company.
We've been hacked! They're through our firewall!
How is that even possible?
They got my password.
Please don't tell me your password was password.
It's actually password 1.
This is a job for sponsored jobs.
This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
All right, everybody, we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Caleb, who's watching the show on YouTube, said that the YouTube feed audio was muted. I think we got all that figured out and fixed. So, Caleb, thank you for bringing that to our attention. We're good to go. Tommy, thank you for maneuvering that stuff in the back. Again, I'm not in studio today. I'm in Indianapolis with Wright State. Wright State, 1410 ESPN Radio, Dayton's radio home for Wright State basketball. They're in the Horizon League Conference Tournament semifinals tonight against Northern Kentucky. We'll have that for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Pregame coverage starts at 6:45, walking you right up to tip-off at 7, and Wright State looking to get back to the Horizon League Finals, where they'll take on the winner of Robert Morris and Detroit, and that's a 9 o'clock tip-off for that game later on tonight. But excited to be back with you. Of course, instant reaction to NFL free agency. It's a shortened show today because we do have Red Spring Training coming up here in about 40 minutes, but I think there's been a couple big splash moves already out of the NFL as far as that's concerned. So the Bengals, right now we'll talk about them more coming up in a moment as far as what they're doing in free agency. But the big one, Kenneth Walker going to the Kansas City Chiefs, that's huge as far as that's concerned, just because of the fact that the wide receiver market is not readily available for the Chiefs to go out there and get a dominant playmaker, and they have to find other ways to get playmakers. When they realize that they couldn't lean into getting, acquiring as many playmakers as they can in the wide receiver market, what they've always done is they've leaned into cheaper playmaker position markets. One reason that they decided, I mean, you can argue amongst yourselves on this if you want, but I mean, if you think back to, when they had to make the decision on Tyreek Hill or, of course, Travis Kelce, I think many would say that Tyreek Hill at the time, as good as Travis Kelce was a better wide receiver than Travis Kelce is a tight end, and Travis Kelce is a hell of a tight end. But if you can have a dominant pass catcher for, at the time, Travis Kelce was going for $30 million. Tyreek Hill was going for $30 million, or you can have a dominant tight end going for that 12 to 15 range. You're going to take the playmaker, the pass catcher that is significantly cheaper than Tyreek Hill, which is why it was smart of the Chiefs to move on from Tyreek Hill, because they were able to get a boatload of draft picks, and you still have a number one, not necessarily wide receiver, but a number one passing target in Travis Kelce. It's kind of like what the Chiefs are doing here. There's really not that dominant wide receiver that they can go after to bring to Kansas City to give another major playmaker to Patrick Mahomes in the pass game with. But what they can do is go get another dominant playmaker in some capacity on the offensive end, and that's what they've done with Kenneth Walker, who signs a 3-year deal for $40 million, and 27 of that is guaranteed. That's a big deal right there. Of course, the biggest move so far, not just in free agency, but the offseason, I think, is Max Crosby being traded to the Baltimore Ravens. The impact that that's going to have, of course, on the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot's been made about that, of course, is that offensive line. It's the first time in the Joe Burrow era where he's going to come back and have the same offensive line for 2 straight seasons. Now, I don't know what that means. I mean, this offensive line, a lot of people say, well, the offensive line was pretty solid this past season. Yes, compared to previous seasons. But, is that offensive line, okay, good? Is that offensive line good enough when you got to go up against Myles Garrett 2 times a season, when you got to go up against now Max Crosby 2 times a season? You have to question that. And can we stop putting T.J. Watt in the same category as Max Crosby and Myles Garrett at this point? T.J. Watt has had one of the more significant drop-offs that I could think of as far as dominant defensive players are concerned, and there's really no rhyme or reason for it. It's not as if he's aged or anything like that. T.J. Watt has been, I think, as good as he can be and as good as he has been. I mean, the drop-off for him has been pretty significant. In my opinion, I don't think he's been nearly the playmaker that Myles Garrett and Max Crosby has been in recent seasons. But let's just assume that somehow, some way, that T.J. Watt turns it around. Now Joe Burrow and the Bengals have to go up against T.J. Watt 2 times a season. They have to go up against Myles Garrett. 6 of the 17 games every single season for the foreseeable future is going to be Joe Burrow going up against the 3 most dominant pass rushers in the National Football League. That's a problem. And, that offensive line is good. It's okay. It's solid. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's great. And I sure as hell don't think it's that great when you got to go up against monsters like that. But good for the Ravens. I don't know if you guys saw the clip of that was going around involving Jamar Chase, because he was obviously gaming online, and it was instant reaction. I mean, he had a crash out when he found out, how in the world can we, talking about the Bengals, how can we let him go into the division? And, I don't know what, to be honest, and I saw Bengals fans try to defend it because there was a report that came out there that they had made an attempt to go look at, Max Crosby. Yeah, let me be clear. The Bengals' attempt to go look at Max Crosby is very similar to the Reds' attempt at major free agents whenever they're out. Now, I know they did sign a Eugenio Suarez, so maybe not. But the bottom line is how tired have we gotten of the Reds in recent years where they're always linked to some big name in free agency, and then they let it slip through their fingertips, right? And we get tired of it. And I've made this point before, where just like recruiting in college basketball and recruiting in college football, a lot of times coaches, to appease a fan base, they will go hot and heavy after a particular player for show. They don't really truly have a spot for that particular player. They don't really, want to go all in on that particular player, but they have to at least go recruit a particular player so that if that player does go on to be really, really good elsewhere, they could say, well, we attempted to get him. We looked at him, because you never want to be the team that said, no, we didn't see anything in that player. And then that player pops off and turns into a superstar. So it's a lot of cover your behind type of stuff. And I think that's what the Bengals did with Max Crosby. They were never going to give up any kind of major prospects to be able, any draft picks, draft capital to go get a Max Crosby. So I think the fact that, Jamar Chase being as furious as he was that they not just didn't get Crosby, but let him go and end up in the division is a problem. And look, the players say all the right things more times than not, but they're frustrated. You know, how good of an offseason is this going to be for the Cincinnati Bengals? I mean, that's, it's still, we're going to sit back and watch type of thing. We got to sit back and wait and see what's going to happen as far as that's concerned. But, that's going to be the big thing at the end of the day. As far as I'm concerned, we'll be keeping an eye on the Cincinnati Bengals as far as any impact free agents that they're going to be able to add and turn things around. So I do know this, that former Cincinnati Bengal Joseph Asai going to the New York Jets. He had 14.5 sacks in 4 years with the Cincinnati Bengals, and now, of course, he's going to the Jets. I don't have any details on that move as far as that's concerned. So we'll keep an eye on that. Nonetheless, with the Bengals, as far as any impact free agents that they add, either way. But like the Cincinnati, but here's another one too. So the Bengals, they did not tender backup quarterback Jake Browning. I did see, and I did find it interesting that the Cincinnati Bengals, were showing that they're still showing heavy interest in Joe Flacco, and that Joe Flacco potentially he's going to go pursue a starting job, a starting opportunity elsewhere. And if that starting opportunity doesn't, start to, present itself, he's willing to come back to Cincinnati to be a backup. I think if I'm Joe Flacco, I would want, if you don't find a for sure starting opportunity out there, I would come back to Cincinnati, especially if you are aspiring to be a starter, because I have absolutely zero faith that Joe Burrow could stay healthy for an entire season. I still think Joe Flacco, you're going to get on average 2 to 4 starts per season. I think one, if Joe Burrow does stay healthy, they're probably winning that division. I'll give them that. And if you win that division, you're probably going to rest Joe Burrow on the back end. So you get a couple starts on the back end. But more times than not, Joe Burrow, he's either playing poorly because he's banged up, or he's not playing at all. And when he is healthy, he's a top, if not the top quarterback in the NFL, no doubt about it. But there's a lot of doubt about whether he can stay healthy. And I think that's kind of where we're at with that. So I find the Joe Flacco thing interesting. I think if he's smart, he would go to Cincinnati if he wants to start, because if he does end up going there, it's because he's telling you he doubts that Joe Burrow is going to stay healthy, and he feels like that's an opportunity to go and start some football games and have some fun with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase like he did last year. Maybe the defense will be better. And they won't lose some of those embarrassing games that they did last year like they did at the Jets and some of the others. Nonetheless, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. We'll talk college basketball coming up here just around the corner. I will be keeping an eye on more NFL free agency news as far as that goes, and, of course, paying attention to what the Cincinnati Bengals are doing. Let's take another quick break. 937-518-1410. Tommy is back in the WNG studios. If you want to jump in on the show, give Tommy a call, and he'll patch you over to me. I'm in Indianapolis with Wright State doing the show remote today, and we still have about another half hour before we hand it off to the Cincinnati Reds. We'll be right back. More of the Justin Kinner Show next.
O'Reilly. Replace your wiper blades and save $10 on a pair of Rain-X Latitude wiper auto parts. Beam blade technology improves windshield contact for maximum visibility. Our professional parts people will even install your new wiper blades for free. Stop by your O'Reilly Auto Parts store or shop online at O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. We all get distracted when we drive, whether it's from our phones or kids in the backseat bickering. But how we handle these distractions can be a matter of life or death. Before you get on the road for your next road trip, please put your phones on silent and take a mental note to focus on driving.
Paid for by NHTSA.
Save big on everything when you shop at Menards. Upgrade your kitchen today with Clearview Cabinetry. We offer a great selection of finishes made with the finest materials and built to withstand life's sticky messes. They provide features like soft closed doors and drawers, and with cabinet accessories to match your unique style. View our selection of Clearview Cabinetry on Menards.com. Plus, check out our weekly flyer and find plenty of great deals happening this week.
Save big money at Menards.
If you need new roofing, siding or gutters, skylights or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. See Lance Roofing and Siding at their new location at 6903 Dayton Springfield Road in Enon. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722. Online at lanceroofing.com.
So my friends over at Pure Talk have been sending me customer feedback from consumeraffairs.com, where thousands of people rate and review the top wireless providers. Here, for instance, is a nice note from James in Raleigh, North Carolina, who writes, quote, "After hearing Mike Rowe's ad, we made the switch to Pure Talk, and we couldn't be happier. We went from spending $1,200 a year with T-Mobile to $420 with Pure Talk. Thanks, Mike. Switch today!" Exclamation point. Pure Talk is saving James $820 a year. And because he literally wrote the words "switch today" in capital letters with an exclamation point, I'm going to go ahead and dedicate this commercial to him. So folks, take it from James in Raleigh, North Carolina. Pure Talk can give you unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month on the same 5G service the big guys are overcharging you for. Just dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe. You'll also save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 to save an additional 50%. Thanks, James.
2 hours ago, Kyle arrived at the bar.
Hey, what's everyone drinking?
30 minutes ago, Kyle got his friends another round of drinks.
Cheers.
5 minutes ago, Kyle decided to drive home drunk. A minute ago, a law enforcement officer pulled up behind Kyle.
Sir, have you been drinking tonight?
A chain of events that began 2 hours ago is about to change Kyle's whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
I think one of the things that patients don't realize is that when they get a joint replacement, that's not a lifetime treatment option. And they're probably, if they are a younger patient, signing up for multiple surgeries down the road.
As a physician and medical director for QC Kinetics, Dr. Caravelli's seen a pattern of trending joint pain. Prolonged medication, steroids, then surgery, possibly another surgery.
So a lot of our patients are trying to avoid or put off surgery, and this is the treatment that can help them do that.
QC Kinetics extracts your body's healing substances, concentrates them back into your aching joints to help heal and restore those areas, providing lasting relief.
Oh, I love being able to tell my patients, before we do this surgery, let's try another option. Let's see if this is right for you, because now they might not have to have surgery at all.
Call today for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
Hop in a John Deere Gator XUV for a day's work. Let's see what's on the to-do list. There goes the tree. And the fence. Not a problem. Because you've got a cargo box filled with solutions. Up to 4,000 pounds of towing capacity. And you're ready to roll.
Power's out!
Here we go again. The Gator XUV, built for every kind of workday. Learn more at johndeere.com/Gator XUV. Nothing runs like a deer.
From posters and presentations to labels and loyalty cards, Staples has all the print to boost your brand. Shop now in-store or you can shop online. Staples, that was easy.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, 937-518-1410, the number to call and jump in on the conversation. You can call that number. You can text that number. Tommy Collins, shout out to our guy Tommy. He's back in the WING studios. He's holding it down. If you call over to him or over to the WING studio, he'll patch you over to me. I'm in Indianapolis again doing the show. Wright State going to be in action coming up later on tonight, 7 o'clock. The tip-off, Wright State, Northern Kentucky. Wright State, the Horizon League regular season champions, the 1 seed. 90-69. I mean, they blew, or 90-61. They blew out Cleveland State in the quarterfinals and just dominated them. And now they're sitting here waiting to take on a team in Northern Kentucky who they just beat in the regular season finale. They were down 20 at one point. I don't suggest getting down 20 again because I also don't anticipate being able to come back from 20 like they did in that historic game. Again, it was one of their largest comebacks in program history, but that's just not something you like to brag. I mean, to say that you came back from 20 means that you were down by 20. So at the end, it's just kind of one of those things where how about you just don't get down by 20 and everything will be fine. But it's been 4 years since Wright State's played in the semifinals here in Indianapolis, and the last time they did in 2022, of course, they had punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament, where they, of course, were a first four team, and they won a first four game against Bryant, and they ended up that was their first NCAA tournament win in program history. So, again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, they have to beat Northern Kentucky tonight, where they'll face the winner of Robert Morris in Detroit. So they still have 2 more games. Nonetheless, I want to talk more college basketball in a moment. Miami, the Red Hawks, they're on a tear as well. They closed out the regular season undefeated. They're in the MAC conference tournament as well. And, I tell you what, they might be the biggest victims in all of college basketball. And I'm saying that very sarcastically, of course, but I want to get to that in a moment. I do want to finish up our NFL free agency conversation because things are getting a little messy for your Cincinnati Bengals. You let Trey Hendrickson walk for absolutely nothing. You lose Joseph Osai. They were heavily linked to Franklin Myers, who, of course, was a dominant pass rusher for the Denver Broncos. And they, there was a lot of people out there who believed that the Bengals, were going to make a splash in free agency to beef up that defensive line. Because the fact is they got off to a hot start. And, they kept that offensive line intact. It wasn't an addition. It was just, retention. It was keeping that offensive line intact. That was one of the main goals for the Bengals front office heading into this offseason. Give Joe Burrow the same offensive line for back-to-back seasons. It's never happened. It finally will. But that momentum kind of dies down a bit because they had an opportunity because first of all, they know the defense. It has to be better. And it doesn't even have to be elite. It just has to be better. But at some point, like I've said before, if Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins cannot get this front office to do things differently, if these guys don't motivate them to change up their ways, I would be very depressed if I'm a Bengals fan because that means Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, who are going to go down when their careers are done, as long as Joe Burrow can stay healthy for longer than 8 games at a time, they will go down as 2 of the best players in the history of the National Football League. If you have both of those at the same time and that you still can't change up the ways in which you do contracts and everything else, guaranteed money, I mean, they pushed themselves out of markets for major players. They should have been the team that landed Franklin Myers. That would have been a big-time addition. That would have really kicked off all the offseason with momentum. He's signing a 3-year deal, $63 million, with $42 million guaranteed with the Tennessee Titans. Dan Orsini and others had come out and said that the Bengals weren't even a finalist because, well, money being one of those reasons. Paul Dehner Jr. says always seemed likely that his money was going to cross that $20 million marker. There's really no other pass rushing defensive tackle option out there. He would also go in a separate tweet to talk about the fact that the Bengals have never, outside of DJ Reader, have never gone above that $20 million marker for a pass rusher like that. So with the departures of Trey Hendrickson and with the departures of Joseph Osai, the Bengals' room of edge rushers that, as of now, you got Miles Murphy, Shamar Stewart, Cedric Johnson, and Isaiah Foskey. Isaiah Foskey, Cedric Johnson, Shamar Stewart, and Miles Murphy. That's not going to get it done because, I see a lot of people saying, well, man, you're almost trying to give Joe Burrow credit for the Ravens getting Max Crosby. Man, the Ravens were so terrified of Joe Burrow that they went out and got Max Crosby. The Browns are so terrified of Joe Burrow that's why they caved and gave Myles Garrett $40 million. It's like, well, okay, if other teams fear quarterbacks and make moves like that, then why doesn't the Bengals make moves knowing that to get to a Super Bowl, you got to beat Josh Allen, knowing that to win a Super Bowl, you got to beat the likes of a Justin Herbert and a Patrick Mahomes and great quarterbacks like that? It just doesn't make sense. And again, because of their stubbornness to lose out on Franklin Myers, that's a huge deal. And some Bengals fans will say it's not a big deal. I think it's a huge deal. I think it's a huge, huge deal that they missed out on a talent like that when really you have almost $50 million to spend. How are you getting outbid by pieces? The most important piece that you needed defensively was a pass rusher, especially if you were going to roll the dice and move on from Trey Hendrickson, and which you did and didn't get a damn thing in return. I have a huge problem with this. I had a huge problem with them not doing anything to keep, to keep Trey Hendrickson and then to, of course, get outbid when you have plenty of money to spend this offseason. The salary cap went up significantly. You already had a healthy amount of dollars to spend in free agency, and then it got even healthier because of the rise in the salary cap. Not a good start to the offseason for the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought there was a little bit of momentum whenever they were able to keep the offensive line intact. But defensive tackle John Franklin Myers, who should have been a Bengal, signs a 3-year, $63 million deal, $42 million of that guaranteed with the Tennessee Titans. He played a massive role in Denver's defensive line success. He had 14.5 sacks in 2 years. 14.5 sacks in 2 years. And here's the other thing I'll say as well. Like for those that say, oh, you lose Trey Hendrickson, that's why they should have gone after John Franklin Myers. No, they should have kept Trey Hendrickson and then added a John Franklin Myers. That's how to have two dominant pieces like that up front defensively to counter what you have on the offensive end with T and Jamar and Joe. Come on. What are we doing? But yes, a lot of these big moves, of course, that have played, throughout free agency or offseason news today. Former Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a 6-time Pro Bowl wide receiver, Mike Evans, he's signing a 3-year deal with the San Francisco 49ers. Malik Willis signs, of course, with the Dolphins. Of course, the backup quarterback for the Packers, who a lot of people thought that there was going to be a lot of teams lining up to go out and after him, but he signs a 3-year, $67.5 million contract. $45 million of that was guaranteed. He shares the same agent as Deshaun Watson, by the way, nonetheless. So keep that in mind. But that's a nice contract. That's a lot of guaranteed money for a guy that really has not been a consistent starter and flamed out in his first stop. So I'm glad the Browns did not go that route. I know the Browns were being reported as interested. I'm glad that they were not interested enough to pursue that pretty heavily either way. But who knows what's going to end up happening as free agency continues. How about the Miami Dolphins, by the way, just outright releasing Tua Tagovailoa? He's going to take, by the way, Deshaun Watson's major cap hit for the Browns that they're going to have to face over the coming years. Miami is going to be punched in the gut even harder. Miami's going to take on an NFL record $99 million, almost $100 million in dead money by moving on. How bad of whether it's an attitude or just talent or what? How toxic did the relationship with Tua Tagovailoa get to the point to where they just moved on and said, you know what, we actually see more. I didn't think Tua was horrible. I didn't think he was great. But how bad did things have to be behind the scenes that the Miami Dolphins as an organization said, we're going to take on almost, it's 99, but 100. They're basically taking on $100 million in dead cap money because they see more value in that than keeping him. They see more value in that than keeping him. I have no clue what's going to happen. We've seen some weird situations happen with these quarterbacks like Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, Deshaun Watson, still a Cleveland Brown, but that would have been, very similar. The Browns would have been justified to move on from him if they wanted to. Ron Howard, yes, J.K. Dobbins ends up back in Denver. I know that the Bengals were on a list, or that he was on a list of, potential moves that the Bengals could have added him to the running back room. What up, Shaw? Shaw says, this is my shocked face that the Bengals haven't and won't do anything in free agency worth anything. Look, I think that we've done this. I've done this long enough to know that the Cincinnati Bengals were never going to make a major splash on the first day of free agency. This is why I get annoyed. This is why me and Bengals fans clash all the time, because a lot of you like to bring up the fact that they have a lot of money to spend. And I'm like, but the Bengals, no matter whether they have money to spend or no money to spend, they still operate the same way. They're bargain shopping. They're always looking for a deal. And I'm not saying that, and by the way, paying for a player at, market value, that's not even a bad thing. Obviously, if you could find a way to get a player cheaper, fine. But whenever you have enough money to get them at market value and you still get outbid for it because you won't even pay market value, that's a problem. That's a problem. Like when everyone mocks all these reports out there that, man, keep an eye on the Bengals. Other teams are keeping an eye on the Bengals and Joe Burrow because they know that in a year Joe Burrow is going to be unhappy because the Bengals aren't going to do enough to really turn this around. In my head, the arrogance of Duke Tobin, and I think the ignorance of that front office, I think that they truly think they could turn this around in the draft. And maybe they just start going and throwing haymakers and adding some free agents coming up. You had a ton of money to spend. You had a bad season. You had a lot of pressure put on from Joe Burrow and others. You would think that you would have a plan and come out swinging, and they're still just sitting back. Maybe he'll come to Cincinnati now. Maybe he'll give us a discount. This arrogant idea that players are going to take discounts to come play on a team with Joe Burrow is just so stupid. Joe Burrow's not the only good quarterback in the NFL, and I think a lot of players around the NFL know that you can't. This sounds bad, but can't count on him to stay healthy. I'm not going to go play for a bad organization just because Joe Burrow's there, because you can't promise that Joe Burrow's going to be there all season long, because all the guy does is either play hurt to the point to where it impacts his play, or he's just not available at all. So there you go. I mean, it is what it is at this point. All right, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show. We have a few more minutes remaining. Again, the show is short today because the Reds spring training action coming up at the top of the hour. We only have about 4 minutes left. At 4:05 will be the first pitch. We'll have Red spring training action for you here. And then, of course, after spring training baseball, it'll be Wright State basketball. Wright State going to be, we're here in Indianapolis right now. They are in the semifinals. They have Northern Kentucky coming up later, looking to get to the final tomorrow. Wright State 2 games away from getting back to the NCAA tournament. Huge opportunity for Clint Sargent, Coach of the Year in the conference, and his staff. I want to close it out, though, in the final couple minutes. You guys saw that the big game between Miami and Ohio. I mean, a big game, but I mean, look, Miami was looking to close out the regular season. Miami's tiring to me. They're exhausting me. They went from a feel-good underdog story to now acting just like a very entitled brat. We all know how college basketball works. We know if you don't play anybody, it's going to be very difficult to make the NCAA tournament. Even if you brag about, hey, they're 31-0, that is an amazing feat. I will never say it's not an amazing feat. But the NCAA tells you the rules, and just because you don't like the rules doesn't mean that the rules don't apply to you. I said this many times. I'm getting tired of everyone doing this whole storyline of, I get it, but they're such a good story. Well, there's no clause in the NCAA tournament committee that says, hey, we're going to use metrics for everyone. We have to apply the metrics to every team in the mix. But unless they're a good storyline, then we'll just throw the metrics out the window. The metrics are being thrown out the window. They're undefeated. They got to win their conference tournament. I really am curious to see what happens if they don't win their conference tournament, and I am rooting for them to lose because I want to see that chaos. It's nothing, whatever, but I'm tired of everyone, these pieces, like the fact that Miami released a lot of this information, released emails of them reaching out to high major programs, trying to get them on the schedule, and then saying, hey, we tried to schedule bigger teams. They just wouldn't schedule us because they're afraid of us. Well, it's not like all these teams got together and said, man, Miami's a sleeping giant. Look out, world. They said it's kind of smart business. If you are going to spend a ton of money for a team to come in and play you, you're basically trying to buy wins. Like it or love it, doesn't matter. And by the way, if you live in the city of Dayton and you're going to roll your eyes at that and get mad at teams for buying wins, and you need to get mad at your own team because your team spends a lot of money for a bunch of no-name teams to come into UD Arena so that they can stat pad their numbers and stat pad their wins to make up on the back end for all the games that Anthony Grant is going to lose that he shouldn't lose on the back end. So don't get mad at that, because that's how high major college basketball is played. But these teams didn't do anything wrong not putting Miami on the schedule. But, Miami's doing this whole, we try to put teams on the schedule. They just wouldn't play us. So what? So we should give you credit anyways? That's like, me failing an exam and telling my professor, hey, you can't get mad that I failed. You can't fail me. I studied really hard for that test. Well, okay, you studied really hard and you still failed. I don't know what to tell you. That's Miami. You studied really hard. You tried your hardest. You tried your darndest. But you couldn't get the teams on the schedule that were going to beef up your schedule enough to almost make you a guarantee. I think they're going to get the at-large anyways. I've just never heard a team like this complain more. I mean, they're a victim in everything, and I don't get it. I'm tired of Miami. I'm exhausted by them. They're exhausting to me. Either way, we're out of time. I appreciate you guys. Sorry for the shortened show. If Wright State wins, I'll be back at it again here tomorrow from Indianapolis. If they lose, we'll be back in studio. Either way, we'll be back at it tomorrow at 3 o'clock right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Have a good rest of your night. Enjoy some Reds baseball coming up, and please tune in tonight. Wright State, Northern Kentucky. Wright State trying to get to their conference final tomorrow night, 2 games away from the NCAA tournament. Tommy Collins back in the WNG studios. Thank you so much. We got Reds baseball coming up next.
Ready to free your team from time-consuming office tasks? Amazon Business empowers leaders with smart business buying tools, leaving time to focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future at AmazonBusiness.com.
Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like rugs. People say a rug would really bring the room together. And sure, you don't know what that means, but it sounds important. Suddenly you're using words like jute and sisal. Then you see the price and lose it, because how can the thing you walk and spill on cost so much? So you devote your life to taking down Big Rug. But then you remember that switching your home and auto to Progressive could save you hundreds. So looks like Big Rug is safe. For now. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
The Reds are on the radio.
This is the Cincinnati Reds Radio Network.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome again to Reds Baseball. This afternoon, the Reds are back in Goodyear Ballpark to host the Athletics. Right-hander Rhett Lauder gets the ball for the Reds. When we come back, it's our daily